Hey guys, welcome back to a new reading vlog. I'm super excited for this one. As you may or may not know, I'm trying to tackle my physical TBR. I'm trying to read mostly from it, so I just have a lot of plans for reading vlogs, and in these plans I had this video. So I've been wanting to ask you guys to pick my reads for a little bit, but I don't have that many followers on Instagram, so what I decided to do is combine Instagram and TikTok to let you guys pick, and then I would combine kind of the answers. That way it's more fun and there's a bit more people who can answer. So for the first poll, I asked you to choose between The Days of Abandonment by Elena Ferrante and Heart the Lover by Lily King. Heart the Lover won. I think it got 68% of the votes, which is perfect because it's exactly what I'm in the mood for. I'm so excited to start this one. I actually really recently finished Writers and Lovers this past Tuesday and really loved it. Kind of unexpectedly, because I usually need the big three for me to love a book, and by the big three I mean the story, the emotional attachment, and the writing. And this one I feel like the writing is a bit simple, but still a really solid 4.5 star read for me, this close to being a 5-star. And I think genuinely the reason that it wasn't is more because I'm in a bit of a reading slump rather than the book itself. So excited to read this one. I'm in the mood to cry at a book. I'm in the mood to be emotionally devastated, and I also feel like this book kind of reflects some of my current inner thoughts, if you will. So I'm really happy you guys chose this one. That's the one we're going to start today. And as I read, depending on when I finish my books, if I finish them during the day and I have to wait for you guys to vote, then the good thing is I have 2 books that I can read from. The first one is Eunice Wednesday's Child. I read the first 2 short stories in this collection already, and I can always pick up some more. And then the second book that I can read from is Derived from Us. I actually picked this up because I really enjoy Grace Burns. She is Christy Tarlington's daughter, and I've been wanting to get into poetry, and this being a debut poetry collection and her also not being a writer, I think it would be more accessible than reading some other poetry. And also it tackles one of my favorite themes to read about in general, which is love. Love and intense relationships is my favorite thing to read about, whether it is, love as in romantic love or friendship and familial. Those are my main things that I love to read about, and I love something very emotionally intense. So this sounded really cool. Let me read the back. In Derived from Us, love is something both impossible and inevitable, as distance and as transformation, as renewal and as lack. Each poem depicts a different one of love's many phases, set against a backdrop of adolescent discovery, melancholy but not maudlin, and passionate without excess. Burns portrays a world tinted the same vivid blue as a pure Arctic glacier. So yes, now that we have my reading stack, let's get reading. Hey guys, I'm now at part 2 of Heart the Lover. It's a little bit over halfway through, but I saw that there were 3 parts, so I thought I might as well give updates at each part. Basically, we follow our narrator. The first part takes place in college when she meets these 2 guys, Yash and Sam. She kind of has this love triangle situation with both of them, which I'm just laughing because it's a similar plot in Writers and Lovers, but she has a really, really strong connection with one of them, and I think that's going to be the main point of this book, is her strong connection with one of these 2 guys. Part 1 just ended in a plot twist, which I did not see coming. I will say, most of it, you can tell that she had the idea to write the sequel, prequel, after writing Writers and Lovers, because the characters are never mentioned in Writers and Lovers. They're never alluded to. So I think maybe giving it a bit more space in between both would have been a bit better, because now I'm like, okay, I can tell that this was a new idea. if you will. I still don't understand why everyone cries at the end. If it's just like, I can't compare it just in case, but I have an idea of what it might be, but I'm not sure yet. It's really easy to read. Lily King's writing is very straightforward. What I also really like is I got a glimpse as to why this book is called Hard the Lover, which I really love. I love when a book title's in a book. It always makes me happy for no reason. I just feel like I'm not emotionally there 100%. So I'm really curious to see where part 2 is going to take it, and part 3. And I'm so curious as to why everyone cries, and I wonder if I'm gonna cry. Still very easy to read. I feel like it's good because I've been having such trouble reading, but still, I've been at it for 2 days, and I've barely read over 2 hours, so that tells you a lot. But yeah, those are my initial thoughts. Hey, I'm officially at part 3. I'm going to try and finish this book today, so I want to give opinions before I get to the last part. I actually really enjoyed part 2. I think I enjoyed part 2 even more than I enjoyed part 1 because the narration style changed, whereas in the first part she writes about these characters, in the second she writes to one of them, and I love second person narration. I think it's so beautiful and so tender and also so intense, which makes me scared because I'm like, where is this gonna go? Genuinely, I feel like it's gonna be more tragic than I thought it was going to be, which makes me scared. I also love part 2 because the character that I love from Writers and Lovers was in part 2. I'm still really enjoying it, and I'm curious to see where it's gonna go. I feel like it might make me cry, so I'm awaiting the moment to see if it does. But more than that, I just love how she writes connections between people and the facets of people. They're not one-dimensional, and you can really tell that she spends a lot of time on the characterization. And I also enjoy that she writes scenes in a very almost clinical way, where the scenes have a reason for a plot and she does not linger, which I think for this book is doing a bit of a disservice because I don't feel my emotions 100% there, whereas with Writers and Lovers that aspect of the writing worked for me better. So that's why I'm like not 100% sure if I'm gonna cry at this, but I might. So we're gonna finish it today and then I'll come back with thoughts. Okay, I finished Hard the Lover, and surprisingly enough, I don't think I need to sit on it too long to give my thoughts. The first and main thing is, as you saw, I didn't cry. I felt the emotions and I felt them brewing, but I think I didn't cry because it went how I expected it to go. I also think I didn't cry for another reason, and that is, actually, this is going to be a spoiler for Writers and Lovers. If you haven't read both of this or Writers and Lovers, skip to this time mark. But I really love Silas. I love Silas in Writers and Lovers, and I think it's part of the reason I love Writers and Lovers so much is I genuinely fell in love with this guy. And so in here, he just felt even better, and he's so patient and understanding, and there's very, very, very little of him in this book. But because I think they're perfect for each other, her and Silas, I felt the pain of her connection with Yash, but I didn't find them as compatible as her and Silas. Anyway, it's obviously still sad. I just expected it to be past lives level of sad for me, and it wasn't. I think overall I liked Writers and Lovers a tiny bit more, but I still really, really enjoyed this one, and I'm happy I read it. There are parts in this that really, really get you, although I didn't cry. But I completely understand why people would. I just feel like both of her books have this level of distance between the events and the characters and me as a reader, and it's something I enjoy in these books. Yeah, it's something that I enjoy. It's not even a negative negative comment, but because my emotions aren't 100% on the line, I don't feel as emotionally devastated as some people were. But I really liked it though. I think it just captured in each part the exact feelings I wanted it to capture, and I actually think I have a soft spot for part 2. I really liked it. So that was option 1, our first TBR takedown in this concept video. And for my second one, let me tell you what I put on the polls. The Bright Years by Sarah Demov, which I think follows the story of addiction. I don't want to know too much going into this. I want to go kind of blind. And then I put What Am I, a Deer by Polly Barton, which I think kind of leans into the theme of obsession and losing yourself when faced with someone else, which is something I love to read about. So whichever one wins, I'll be very happy. And I'll start once I have enough votes, because as of right now, combining TikTok and Instagram, we're at 50-50, but we'll see who wins. Thank you for picking this one up, and I'll come back when I have started the next read. Hey guys, if you saw my last video, I'm wearing the exact same thing, exact same angle, probably exact same lighting, because it's the same day. Only way it's different is that I decided to put my glasses on. But I started the new book, which is What Am I, a Deer? On TikTok, everyone voted for, everyone being 2 people again, voted for The Bright Years. But on Instagram, What Am I, a Deer? Was winning by quite a lot, and when combined, this one still made it to the top. So this one is the one that I am reading. I am now 50 pages into it. I started it yesterday. Let me explain. This follows a woman who moves to Frankfurt to be a translator, which kind of sounds like an autofiction in the sense that she's going to be a Japanese translator, and Polly Barton is a Japanese translator. But on the tram, she meets this man and she becomes obsessed with him. From what I know, that is kind of the premise of the book, and there's also a huge role with karaoke in this book because it is super important to the main character. And the book kind of opens with her relationship to singing. She's not even a great singer, she says. She just finds it so therapeutic. So that's really interesting, and I've never really read about that passion. So it's pretty fun to read. But I will say, I didn't know going into this that it is stream of consciousness, and that is genuinely the hardest for me kind of structure to read, because it requires you to both be focused and not be too focused. And I think it's so hard to follow the flow of the sentence when the sentence is interminable, and you have to kind of just let go of your preconceived notions of what sentences are supposed to be structured like, or how chapters are supposed to be structured. And for me personally, it means that I can't really read in big chunks. I have to read in very small chunks sporadically throughout the day. And so to be quite frank, when I started it, I was like 10 pages in and I was like, should I DNF this? Should I DNF this? Because it's going to be really difficult. But the reason that I powered through, and that I am going to power through, is that the writing is really beautiful. And I also find the story very interesting, but mainly it's the writing. I feel like with the subject matter, I'm not far enough into it where she's gotten that obsession yet, but with the subject matter, I think the writing is going to be so beautiful to read when I really get into her obsession with this man. In the meantime, it's already been really cool to the point where I've been annotating it, and I was kind of toying back and forth with the idea, but considering how really beautiful some of these sentences are, I feel like I could revisit some of the quotes in here in the long run, even if this book doesn't end up being my favorite book of all time. So yeah, that's my initial thoughts on What Am I, a Deer, and I will come back as we get more into it today and tomorrow and whenever. Hey guys, I finished one of my Adir yesterday, so I'm here to give final thoughts on this book. I actually think I liked the first half more than I liked the second half, in that it sort of felt very redundant at some point. I think partly it's due to the nature of the writing and partly it's due to the content, which kind of starts ruminating on itself so much, which in a sense makes perfect sense for this book in that it is inner processings and inner thoughts. But it felt very claustrophobic to be in this character's head at some point because I wasn't relating to everything she was saying. I was relating to a lot of this stuff, but the stuff that I wasn't really relating really took me out of the story, and the writing in itself is quite difficult to follow, with the sentences being very long and with the stream of consciousness style. Where my favorite parts in this book were actually the parts of her in the depths of her obsession with this man that she's obsessed with in this book. And I think the reason for that is that I felt that the writing in those moments and the reflections that she was having on herself in those moments were more acute and more astute. It was also written in a way where it feels like it's written years in the future and she's thinking back to this moment in her life, but then you never really get to that point in the future that she's writing this point of view from, so it doesn't actually feel like it's being written that far in the future, if that makes any sense. I think the structure lost me a little bit and the writing in itself, but I still enjoyed it. I just didn't enjoy it quite to the extent that I was expecting to when I heard what this book was about. That's one of my Adir. And for the last poll, we have 2 romance books. I need something to binge and I need something quick, and I need to get out of this reading slump, and this is the only way. So I put Our Perfect Storm up against Into the Blue, and it was 50-50 on my stories, but there was one comment for Into the Blue, so that is the one that we are starting. I feel like I might as well give an update while I'm here. I'm still very, very early on. I'm at page 37 on the Kindle, but I already feel my emotions brewing, which is a nice feeling that I haven't really felt that much since Writers and Lovers and a bit in Heart the Lover. So that's exciting. I feel like it's gonna be painful. The thing is with me, my emotions are so on the line when I read romance, and that's not the case with other genres. I don't know why. It's very rarely the case in other genres, I think. My favorite books it is, but apart from my favorite books, it's not really the same. Whereas in most romance books, it's the way I feel. But I can also just find them so cringy and the writing too simple and just not thought-provoking enough. This one I really don't know where it's gonna go. I'm gonna try to give a summary, actually. From what I know, it's like a decade-long story of a sort of second chance narrative. I don't know if it's exactly second chance or it's just that kind of normal people, right person, wrong time kind of thing. We follow AJ, who is desperate to get out of the town that she grew up in, but then she kind of finds her plans falling off because she broke her arm, and so that means she can't attend a sports camp over the summer, and so she thinks she's not going to be able to get a scholarship for college, which means she would be stuck. And she works at this video store, and they hire a new person to work with her, Noah, who you understand he's back in town. He's a bit older than her, I think. He's like 4 years her senior or 3 years her senior, and he's back for specific reasons, but you don't really understand exactly why. And they're gonna happen to actually just become scene partners in acting and theater, and from what I know, they grow a very close bond. And from the summary, it says that Noah suddenly disappears after, which is unprompted and comes out of nowhere. And then I think they just continue meeting each other across ages and across their lives. I hope it's gonna make me cry. That's my hope number one. My expectations honestly for this book are for it to be a 5-star romance book for me because it reminds me of some of my favorites. So I feel like it has the potential, and so far I'm really enjoying it, as you can see from my reactions. I think I just picked the perfect moment to read a romance book, so my feelings are definitely on the line. I don't have too much time to read recently because I've had a lot of essays that I need to finish and meetings for my academic stuff, which is basically the end of my essays are due this week, tomorrow to be exact, and then I have my dissertation that I need to work on routinely, and I have a meeting for that on Thursday. So that's been taking up some time, and obviously that takes time away from reading, and especially because I've been in a slump where I don't really want to read, and the book that I just read was so complex it made it even harder to read. I feel like it's just put me in this habit of not really reading too much, so I'm really trying to change that this week and trying to fully cement being out of this reading slump, and I'm really hoping that this does the trick for that. So yeah, those are my updates on Into the Blue. I'm gonna continue reading today, and we'll talk when I have a lot more to say. Hey guys, good morning. It's Thursday morning. It's quite early in the day. I think it's 8 a.m. I just got ready because I wanted to get the day started early so I could talk to you. I'm at part 3 of the book, which is almost halfway through, a little bit under halfway, but I have a little bit under 6 hours of reading left, so I feel like I need to update because I want to binge read as much as possible today. I would love to finish it today because it's addicting. So my current thoughts. Something was hinted at in one of these chapters of part 2, and I clocked it, and I was like, I literally put a Goodreads update when I read it that just says nope, nope, no. And then I got confirmation of that little hint that I obviously saw. I will say it's really interesting because since they're both actors and they have this very intense connection, especially when they're improvising, a lot of the text that they say out loud as their characters, they're really saying to each other as each other, which I like. It's kind of reminding me of 7 Days in June, where they'd write to each other in their books. It's just gonna be so devastating. I feel like I've read an entire book already. And it's honestly not because it's slow paced or anything. It's just like the stuff that's been happening just feels like I could be 70% through a book, but I'm only halfway through. So I'm like really scared of what's gonna happen. At the moment, I can't tell 100% if it's going to be a new favorite romance for me or not, but certainly one that I like. I haven't really been cringed out because the stuff that's a bit more cringy to me is just about the shows that they're filming or the shows that the main character really loves, because it's like this old improv sci-fi show. I don't know. They went to a convention for it, so it's like pretty nerdy, but I don't think it's necessarily cringy, which is good. And the last point that I want to make is this is really cementing that I prefer romance that are only single POV, because when you get both point of views, I feel like it's harder to create a conflict. It's a little frustrating in the sense that you're like, just get together. Like, you both love each other, I can hear it in your thoughts, get together. With this, it obviously creates suspense that you're not getting Noah's point of view, but it also just makes their connection, especially through their improvisation, a lot stronger, which I'm loving. So far, so good. And I'll come back later today with updates. It's been a few hours because I didn't actually start reading after I talked to you guys because I'm just dreading ending it, and if it ends the way that I am genuinely dreading it to end, I will be crushed and you will see me cry. It's exactly the emotions that I thought Heart the Lover was gonna get out of me. I'm loving it, obviously. I'm just such a lover of second chance romances because you get to see the connection between people grow over time, and it feels a lot more realistic to me. I think partly because I read so many romance books, but also partly because inevitably with a second chance romance, what's really on the line is the emotions and the emotional connection between the characters, and it enhances the tension so much. Really made me realize even that now I feel like the romance books that I'm most excited to read and the ones that are genuinely on my radar are second chances, which is funny because, like I was saying, I love them, and I think to an extent it's almost the only ones I can read because that built-in connection between the characters, and even though sometimes they don't hit super strong, I feel like it's still more believable to me than when you read a romance book and they fall in love in 2 months. Like I'm like, and then they get married in the epilogue. Anyway, I don't want it to end. I'm at part 4. At the same time, I'm like, can you please be together? I fear it's gonna get the tears going. It's not even that it's particularly well written, I would say. It's more that the characters feel so believable and the story itself seems plausible, but it's also that it's brimming with this sense of sadness, honestly, throughout, and I'm just so happy that I'm binging a book, that my emotions are back on the line when reading. I think that's, to me, the power of literature, is just being able to feel so much when you're literally reading words on paper. Anyway, I'm gonna go and finish it, give you my reaction to the ending, and we'll talk when I'm done. Please don't end the way that I fear it to end, please. Hey guys, so I finished Into the Blue 2 days ago. Ended up reading an entire book in between, but that's just because I needed to start something immediately. Otherwise I would have fallen into a real reading slump. But as you saw, I cried a lot at the ending, which I expected to cry, but I think I tortured myself. It's also just because it's so different to how other romance books tend to end. I feel like there's only 2 possibilities and this author chose the third, which I'd never expected to be a thing. So I really enjoyed that she did something different, even though clearly it got my tears going. I know how I feel about this book, but overall it's such a strange thing because I see a lot of the flaws that this book had, and I think the main one is just that it was too long and that it needed to be cut a bit more, because at some point it just kind of became stagnant in, this push and pull thing that they have going on. And obviously because it's a second chance, there's a lot of miscommunication, but at the same time I feel like if that had been cut and if some parts that aren't explored as well as other parts had been cut, I don't know that I would have liked it as much. So yeah, I just find myself in this very weird situation where I'm like, objectively there are flaws, and I think had they been tackled, it might have made the book better. However, my feelings towards it aren't affected by those flaws, if that makes any sense at all. I think I'm generously gonna give it a 5-star. If I were to be really exact, it might be a 4.75 because I see those flaws, but then again, the way I feel about it is like a 5-star book. I think it's just that I feel as I grow as a reader more and more, I'm more and more picky with 5 stars, and I feel like at this point I don't give 5 stars out unless it's like a 6-star. book, which I feel like I wasn't like this before. I've always been picky with them, but I feel like now it just needs to be perfect and I need to feel super intensely about them. So we're gonna rectify this and we're gonna generously give it a 5-star. It's definitely a top romance for me, but it's also so different to the other ones. But you know, it's a romance book I love if I'm gonna buy it, and I'm planning on buying it, so that says enough for me, I think, because I only have my favorite on my shelves and there's very few. Anyway, I don't really know how to close this reading vlog off because it's supposed to come out today. So Heart the Lover, very good book, a solid 4-star read for me. I feel like I might enjoy it more on a reread. And overall opinion, I love Silas. And for What Am I Dear, I know that I didn't really update too much because I was a bit bored and it was really hard to get into it every time I was trying to. But I really loved the writing. I just don't really think I loved the execution too much. Unless she was really ruminating on her approaches to relationships, I didn't love it. And by relationships, I mean not just her infatuation with this guy, but more in the general sense of like her relationship to her colleagues, her boyfriend, to the people in her life, essentially. A very interesting book. I'd be curious to see what Polly Barton comes out with next, if she releases another fiction book, and what that would look like. And I'm really happy that I read this in the end. And obviously Into the Blue was my favorite of this video. And you can tell by the amount of time that I spent talking about that book. So I'm gonna stop now. Thank you for sticking up till the end. Bye!